The month of October has been declared as Mental Health Awareness Month, which aims to not only educate about mental health but also reduce the stigma and discrimination that people with mental health issues are often subjected to. Although South Africa is ranked as one of the lowest mental health scores in the world, mental health is steadily becoming a concern in the country. Let's take this discussion further when I joined via Zoom by Development and Projects Manager at Rhiza Babuyile Katlego Assis to weigh in on this conversation as we continue to raise awareness on mental health challenges. Katlego, thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. All right, we understand that you're working closely with communities. How big a challenge is mental illness in South Africa? And I will say in the poorer communities where people might not necessarily talk about, oh, I went to go see a therapist. Often these issues can be put to the side.
Look, the challenge is bigger than what we know statistically because of the stigma that is attached to mental illness. I think especially because it's something that is misunderstood, there's a lot of misinformation around it, and the biggest thing, as I indicated, the stigma around it. So in communities, especially post-COVID, the mental instability of those within our surroundings, in our communities became very prevalent, and it became very apparent that it's not just physical issues, but it's issues that have got to do with mental illness. And so the problem is bigger than what we know of at the moment, but slowly with information and education around the issue, it's becoming something that is being demystified, especially in poorer communities or developing communities.
I'm glad you talk about the issue of stigma. Does that stigma also cause people to be wary of seeking help when they suspect that they are dealing with mental health issues? Are people even aware, really, of the fact that they are struggling with mental health issues?
Yes, culturally and contextually, mental illness is not something that is easily spoken about. I think because perhaps in our vernacular languages and so forth, we don't necessarily have language for that.
Yeah.
So it's fairly new, and in it being introduced, something misunderstood, there are always preconceived ideas. So when people suspect depression, when people suspect any form of mental illness, the first the first approach is to try and handle it themselves, seek other causes. Perhaps it's something else. It's not necessarily related to what I've heard or know about mental illness. So the stigma does make it a challenge at the moment for people to reach out for the help that is there and available. But as I said, that slowly with the education taking place, it's changing. It's changing mindsets, and it's now becoming something that is more of a reality, and we can no longer ignore it.
Yeah, and what sort of help are you providing or assistance that you are giving to those who do indeed reach out?
At the moment, Rhiza Babuyile has a few clinics around the country, and we've got qualified staff, nurses, healthcare workers who are able to advise, to communicate, and maybe to see deeper than when a person has come to the clinic. But what we do more actively with the resources that we have right now is the education around it. That is what we have been. We are more strategic, and possibly even I'm struggling with the word, but we are more focused on that. Okay. And in making sure that there's a lot of information and education around it, as I said, that demystifying it, because it's attached to so many other things, culturally, contextually. It's not just the South African context, but it's an African context really that we're battling with. And to break through the barriers of what culture has also has created around the idea of mental illness is also something that we need to work through. So being within the community, the best thing that we can do is to offer information and offer easy access to that information, and people then being able to then being referred, if there are any signs, if nurses see that there's a need for further treatment that perhaps the clinic cannot offer, that is the first place of referral that will then take place in our premises.
All right, Katlego, pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for speaking to us, but also thanks for the work that you're certainly doing in some of those communities who really do need the assistance, and good luck to you. That is Katlego Assis, who is the Development and Projects Manager at Rhiza Babuyile.